Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Dead Film Critics Society podcast. I'm here, as always, with my lovely co-host, Aiden Billing from @GBD Reviews. Make sure to go check him out. Make sure to check out my channel, Reviewing, on YouTube. And, as always, we're going to start off with a little trivia before we get into movie news and the movie we're talking about this week, which is Collective, a 2019 Romanian documentary that debuted at TIFF and Venice, and has been nominated this year for Best International Feature and Best Doc. But first of all, let's get into some trivia, Aiden. I would like you to ask yours first.
Sweet. All right. Well, let me ask you something, Daniel.
Yeah.
This documentary film, Collective, what film festival did it first premiere at?
I mentioned 2 film festivals that it showed up at. I'm pretty sure Venice happens earlier than TIFF, so I'm gonna say it premiered at the Venice Film Festival. It might have been
It was Venice.
One. Okay, it was.
Good one.
All right.
Good eye.
Nice. I
Yeah.
did know that. It did show me at the beginning. All right. I would like to ask you, Aiden. The Oscar nominations for this last week. Who
Yes.
was the first Asian American to get a nomination in Best Actor?
Best actor. Okay. Was it someone from Minari? I'm just trying to think. It must have been. No, it wasn't, was it? Ah, shit. I'm sorry. Why can't I remember? Are you kidding me? I'm drawing a blank here, man. What is it?
It
Who was it?
Stephen Yun.
Oh my god, I was thinking that shit.
Yeah, for Minari, you're right. I'm gonna transition
Fucking
right
hell.
into news. As my first news piece is that Stephen Yeun snags historic lead actor nomination. Yeun becomes the first Asian American performer to ever be recognized in the lead actor category, which, you know, we always love to see that. I personally think he's a little more supporting, but you know what? I'll take it. It's a great performance. It deserved to be nominated for sure. And I'm glad the Academy acknowledged Minari in a lot of categories because it definitely deserves it. It's a great movie. Aiden, you need to see it.
Well, I will
sure.
definitely try and see that. I need to find somewhere where I can stream it.
Yeah. Before I continue on my news, do you have any news bits you would like to share with us?
Well, I have one big news. The Snyder Cut apparently is not terrible. I don't know if you heard about all the
I have
reception
heard,
to
yeah.
it, but people are saying it's brilliant, and honestly, that actually makes me kind of hopeful. I mean, like, they were hyping this up forever, right?
Yeah.
People kept on talking about, yo, this is going to blow everyone away. It's so much better than the theatrical version. I was pretty skeptical because everyone was saying that, you know, about Batman v Superman before that came out, and that was pretty boring. But I don't know, man. I mean, like, it makes me really want to see it now with all the positive reception. I mean, like, though I'm not really paying attention to the critical reception because that's only a 76, which is decent, but the audience score is hovering around 97, 96. I think that's a pretty good indication that it's fun to watch. So
yeah, like, you know, that usually means that you'll like it. I think the big thing is it might not be that good a movie based on, because I trust critics most of the time, I'll be honest. And especially when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes, they're very generous. As in, basically, it doesn't, when you give it a 98, it doesn't represent, like, all the people who watched it, like, gave it a 98 out of 100 score. It means that 98% of the people who watched it and reviewed it liked it.
Gave it a positive score.
Gave it a positive score, right? So when, you know, there's, like, at least 25% or so of people who didn't like it, I can be a little skeptical. And I think the reason the Justice League Snyder Cut was guaranteed to almost do so well, I remember there's a video about this on Film Theory, was just because it was hyped up so much that it literally had to be good. If it wasn't good, then, like, well, it had to be good no matter what. First of all, it had the low bar of being better than the original cut, right? That's the first bar it needed to do, and it did that successfully. I literally have not. It's good that I've heard no one say that this is worse than the original version, and that, you know, is an achievement of itself. Because sometimes things like this could be worse. It was not, but also it has a pretty low bar considering the very not great reception that Justice League got. So and you know, when you got 4 hours to, you know, impress someone on their couch, just got to be at least one moment there where, like, oh, that's insane, look at that crazy stuff, and, you know, and, you know, if it's entertaining enough for 4 hours, I guess it's a solid movie. I will probably check it out. I do think it's a little overhyped for sure. At this
Hopefully
point,
it's good.
But Definitely be willing to watch it.
Yeah,
All
of
right, I'll
course,
move
of course.
into the rest of my news. Billie Eilish wins a Grammy for "No Time to Die," the song for the James Bond film that has not been released, and is the first song ever to win from an unreleased movie. But that is a good
That is
sign
pretty
that she'll
funny.
probably be competing at the Oscars for Best Original Song next year, assuming James Bond does come out this year, which it should.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, MGM's iconic movie lion logo has been replaced by an all CG lion. I don't know if you have any strong feelings about this. Just a little interesting fun
Are,
fact.
are,
Yeah,
are you serious?
yeah, apparently.
What?
I know.
Oh,
I
oh
guess
man. I mean, like, I don't know about that. Like, I think the original was so iconic. I don't really see the need to change it. Like, did it have? Was it really
I don't
that
know.
dated
They
looking? I thought
never.
it looked pretty good.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't understand what the problem. I don't know why this was something on MGM's agenda for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't. They
Yeah.
don't really give much of a reason in this quick article
Yeah, they're
thing.
probably just trying to stay relevant. I mean, like they haven't
Yeah, I don't
put
know.
out a
Trying to
ton of
be
big
more
movies
I
as
mean,
of late.
sometimes they upgrade old things to become a more modern company, and it's like, but there's
Hmm.
also something to be said for tradition and legacy. But I guess they just
Yeah, exactly.
they didn't really
I mean,
care about
like
it too much.
everyone was like, it kind of reminds me of like, how McDonald's restaurants used to be all like colorful and shit. Now they're like all gray and depressing. That's kind of what this feels like a little bit, you know?
I don't know about their depressing, because I'm pretty sure they did a
Well,
lot of
dude,
research to make to
have you
make sure
seen the
that
old
they're not
McDonald's
that
restaurant?
depressing. Like, have I seen a modern McDonald's restaurant? It's
No, have
very
you seen an old one? They
Have I
look
seen an
amazing,
old
dude. They're
one?
so like
I've
bright and
seen an old
colorful.
one. You
Yeah.
know, it looks
Come
more
on.
yellow and it looks a lot less efficient. I can't blame McDonald's for like they clear like I
I'm not
can't
talking
blame
about like I'm talking about purely the color scheme, man, not like the actual functionality of the restaurant. They could have kept all those colors, but it's just that's just how I see it. But it's fine if we
yeah,
disagree on that.
like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really have much to say about that. I would say that McDonald's is a large corporation. I think they would think a lot about what how they usually like even schools research what kind of colors are supposed to be less depressing and more exhilarating for students as a general mood
Yeah.
kind of thing. Pretty sure McDonald's did their research as to what makes a McDonald's restaurant look appealing from the outside. I don't think they just said fuck it, let's just make it more modern for efficiency purposes only. But who knows? Maybe they did. But I don't know. It's a weird issue to have disagreement about. But anyways,
Yeah. This is
I
a
don't.
movie page
I
after
don't.
all.
Yeah. I don't. And also, I just in general in my own life don't have a lot of strong feelings about that, or really any at all. But
Understandable, man. Anyways, let's move on. That
yeah,
was
yeah,
a
for sure.
tangent.
Anthony
Yeah.
Hopkins at age 83 becomes the oldest Best Actor nominee at the Oscars, and I don't think we're really surprised to be honest. First of all, he's a great actor. And
Yep.
it's been clear by the work of his past few years that he still is a great actor. And the father gave him one of his, it was a role that fit him perfectly from what I've heard. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. It should be out on VOD this week. Pretty much wherever you live, I'm pretty sure it should be out this Friday on March 26th. So make sure to go check out that movie. I'll definitely be checking it out. And you should too. For sure. We got a quick news article talking about how Elton John questions the Catholic Church for investing in Rocket Man, but then remaining anti-gay marriage. And I would agree with that. It's like if you're gonna invest in something like Rocket Man, it's weird to also, have your public stance be anti-gay marriage kind of thing, right? It's a weird
Yeah.
decision. Like, I can understand if you just stayed I understand some religious beliefs of not allowing gay marriage to a certain extent, right? There is some religious rights that can allow you to have stances like that, but then to go ahead and invest in Rocket Man and then turn around and say, oh, we're also anti-gay marriage is a weird thing. It's a weird thing
It is
for sure.
very weird, honestly. I just I don't know. Like if you want to stick to that mindset, like that's fine. I mean, like obviously it's been impossible for people to try and change the Catholic Church's mind for I don't know how many years now, but like I just don't understand like why they would turn around and do something like that. Invest in a film that's obviously pro-gay. It just
Yeah,
doesn't
very
really match
pro-gay.
up. Like stay in your lane. Honestly,
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know, I think Elton John
clout
saw that
chasers.
they're investing in Rocket Man as like a kind of a supporting it, and then they sort of not
Mm.
support it at the same time. I don't know. It's
Cloud
weird.
chasers.
We got a new poster for Candyman, a 2021 film that's supposed to be
Ooh,
directed by Nia DaCosta. It's a remake of I believe it's a 1980s horror movie, and it's
1992.
with producer Jordan Peele on it. It stars
Yeah.
Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who was most recently starring in Watchmen and The Trial of Chicago 7, along with a pretty good supporting cast, including Coleman Domingo as the person I know the best from that cast list. And this is definitely a movie I'm going to be willing to check out. Jordan Peele's made some great movies, and I think they clearly have a vision for this movie, and I think it would be something I'd be willing to check out for sure. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of horror movies, but who
Yeah.
knows? It would be interesting to see how good it is.
No, for real. I mean, like, I haven't seen the original Candyman film, but from what I understand, it's a pretty iconic film from the like early '90s, and it's got that magnificent performance by Tony Todd and his electrifying voice. I think you know what I'm talking about, right? You've heard him speak before,
No, I
but
have not. I don't know what you're
oh
talking about at
man,
all.
it's the coolest voice ever. Honestly, it's just so gruff and menacing. Like he's an amazing villain, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
and he's also in the Final Destination films as well. He's like basically this presence of death throughout it. Yeah,
All
he's a
right.
great actor, and I think he's returning for this one too. So I'm excited.
Interesting. All right.
Yes.
The Gray Man, starring Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans, I believe is a Netflix action movie, is to shoot in Prague. So I think they're going to get started on filming that at least. Basically, that's what they're saying is that they're doing it in a place where there's a little less COVID, so I think they're going to be able to film it easier. Metacritic aggregated critics' best of the decade list includes films such as Mad Max Fury Road, Moonlight, The Social Network, Get Out, and Under the Skin. Out of those, I'd have to say my two favorites would be The Social Network first. It might be my favorite movie, and then Moonlight. I really like the movie. I do
Yeah.
like the other movies. I think Under the Skin would probably be my least favorite. I watched part of it. I didn't like it too much. I personally thought it was a little too weird. I didn't 100% get the message they're going. I think it definitely. Also, I think it kind of declines as it goes into the second half of the movie. That's why I didn't completely finish it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely an interesting movie, and most people think it will hold up as like an art house kind of 2001 Space Odyssey kind of film, sort of one that leaves most people confused, but kind of has something that like a feeling or a meaning that a lot of people can pick up on.
Yeah.
Get Out,
All right.
it's definitely a good movie, and there's a lot of smart things that Jordan Peele does with it, and I enjoy the movie overall. I don't know if I'd call it one of the best of the decade, though. It's in my top. The best I can say for it, honestly, is it's my top 10 of 2017. It's not a bad movie at all. It's a great movie. It's just not. I don't think it's as good as the other films on this list. It would be my second least favorite. I'm sorry.
Are you smoking crack?
I'm not
What are
smoking
you talking
crack. I
about?
promise.
Oh my lord! All right, that's.
The
I'm gonna
jump
try not
scare.
to say too much about that because I
The
don't want to have an argument. But man,
We can say a little bit about it. I can.
I
We can
personally think dude,
we
it's
can
one of
talk
the.
about
It's
it a
not
bit.
just a great like thrill film. I think it's by far and away one of the best films of the decade, man. I think for a first time director, for him to do what he was able to do, craft some amazing thrills, have a unique soundtrack. I think having some great performances out of his lead actors. I mean, like I
I
haven't
mean, it's
seen
Daniel
any first time
Kaluuya.
director do something like that, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's why for me it's one of the top 10 films of the 2010s. You
Yeah.
know,
I
but
mean, I can see an argument
yeah,
for it. Like. There aren't a ton of flaws with it. I just don't enjoy it as much as some other films. I do think
yeah,
some of the jump scare stuff and like some of the horror elements don't work as well overall. I think its social commentary slash thriller elements work a lot better, and
yeah,
it's smart symbolism and some of its better action scenes, and also it does make a rare like comedy sidekick in a horror thriller movie work really well, the best I've seen in
yeah,
anything. But that's the kind of
yeah,
thing I would expect from Jordan Peele, and overall as a director I think he definitely, as far as like visual and production design, I think there is some need for improvement, but his writing is I think definitely one of his strongest points for sure. And
yeah,
I would not, even though I wouldn't pick him for best original screenplay, I'm fine that he won it when he did.
yeah.
It's
Fair enough.
deserved.
All right. All
Um,
right.
we can move on from that. China orders media to downplay the Oscars coverage after Chloe Zhao and Hong Kong doc short was nominated. This doesn't surprise me. I mean, this is not our problem. Who cares? Like, it's the big corporations problem. It's like, of course China's going to have a problem with someone who's, because Chloe Zhao has made very clear she's anti-Chinese government. She doesn't like what they're doing over there, being that she was born there, moved to London, and then has come here, went to NYU as a filmmaker, and now has made a lot of her films here in the United States. Is, it's clear where she's coming from. And this is obviously going to be a big thing for her Marvel movie, seeing as she's going to be directing the Eternals, which apparently has already gotten some buzz from like some people who apparently been on set or a couple things, or some executive producers at Marvel or executives at Marvel saying it's a great movie, and that apparently they're going to be planning a awards campaign for it. Similar to Black Panther. So I'm very much
Really?
yeah. It's apparently that good, which doesn't surprise me at
Shit.
all considering how good Chloe Zhao is at making movies. But it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see overall, just as a superhero movie, I don't know what Marvel does about China and the fact that they're probably not going to like that Chloe Zhao directed it. And I don't
Yeah.
know if Chloe Zhao's obviously I don't think it was her idea to put any like anti-Chinese anything that would be directly anti-Chinese, because like something that I saw pointed out this year was that in Onward, Pixar had its first like gay character with one of the police officers who said she had a girlfriend. But the big thing about that is that they noticed that for a country like China, they could just simply cut the line very easily, and then it would just be a normal character, which is
Yeah.
just I don't know. It's a weird thing to see, but I mean, it's a business thing. I don't want to talk about this too much. It doesn't really matter to us
No,
personally
no,
at
no.
all.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, I
Um,
I have my own feelings on how China is basically bullying the world into like just doing what they want. I'm not the biggest fan of their practices, especially how they've basically did like a genocide against Muslims in their country, and nobody's really done anything about that. But obviously,
yeah,
this is a
I
film
mean,
channel. We don't want to get too political.
it's obviously a very difficult situation, seeing as China
Yeah.
is a place that has a lot of economic power, and it's kind of hard to, all gather together against one that's probably going to overtake the United States as the largest economic power in the world, considering the way
Mm.
things are going. So I don't know, because like when you have a when you have a country that can very much restrict its citizens, it's very easy to create everything, make things go efficiently, which helps them
Yeah.
economically, which then helps them create more conflict and want to control more media across the world, rather than just in their own country, but also definitely in their own country. But
Yeah.
we can move on. Glenn Close is one of 3 actors to be nominated for an Oscar and a Razzie for the same performance. She was nominated for a Razzie for her supporting role in Hillbilly Elegy, and she was also nominated for the Oscar for Hillbilly Elegy. It's a weird pick. Out of everyone in
What?
Hillbilly Elegy, she's definitely one of the better ones, if not the best. If you were going to pick someone from Hillbilly, because for some reason the Razzies wanted to pick Hillbilly Elegy for Worst of the Year, even though it's mediocre. It's not a Oscar movie. It's also not a Razzie movie. It's in the middle. I'm fine with Glenn Close getting that nomination, but the fact I don't know,
Yeah.
it's a little stupider from the Razzies perspective. It makes more sense to give it an Oscar because it's a good performance in an okay to bad movie. Um, but I don't know.
The
The Razzies
Razzies.
are weird. I if
What
the
other people have gotten a Razzie nomination and Oscar nomination the same year? I can't
I'm
think of
pretty
any.
yeah. There's only 3 others. I don't know who. I think I've seen them listed. They're not anyone too noteworthy, but I don't know. It's an
Oh, okay.
interesting thing.
That's
Um,
weird.
yeah. Viola Davis makes history in the Oscars as being the most nominated black actress ever. And I think that's definitely deserved. She is definitely
Yeah,
one
big
of
ups to her,
the
man. Fucking
yeah,
hell.
she is an amazing actress, for sure, and I think she definitely deserves to have that title. But just in general, I wouldn't like to categorize her because I think she is just one of the best living actresses we have today, and I wouldn't like to put a box in her saying that she's like one of the most nominated
Oh
black
yeah, for
actresses ever.
sure.
She should just be one of the most nominated actresses. Period. So, but
Yeah, well,
that's
she's
my
a
feelings on that.
fantastic actress. I've loved
Yeah.
her work, like not even just in films, but also on the small screen. She's very good in How to Get
Mm-hmm.
Away with Murder. I have not finished that show yet, but I'm in the
Yeah.
midst of it. I
I
do plan
literally
to.
never seen her give a weak performance, and she's always good.
No,
Like,
yeah,
even some of her weaker projects, she's still able to be good and make the movie like a good movie, I'd say.
yeah, yeah,
Streaming services subscriptions have passed 1 billion in total. As we know, also the global box office is kind of cratering across the world as COVID has shut down a lot of movie theaters. But in the United States, they're opening up a lot more because they're really getting that vaccine out pretty quickly. I've seen a lot of people, like, film people I'm following on Twitter, people who are, like, should be able to work from home, so they shouldn't be that high up on the list for COVID vaccines, are getting offered to get their vaccines, right? So that kind of shows to me that America's really, like, trying to get on top of it, trying to get everything open as close as possible. Obviously, movie theaters are still running at like restricted. I think they're only running at like 25% capacity in like the big cities like New York and Los Angeles, but they're getting them open. So I don't know. I don't know what this is going to mean for Canada as far as like that probably means that they're going to be more willing to release the movies, the big movies that they're like wanting to get more box office for. When it comes to things that, especially like summer blockbusters, things like In the Heights, Suicide Squad, and other summer releases.
Yeah, I
Black
think
Widow.
those films need to be seen in theaters, man, especially In the Heights. I mean, I don't know. I don't think musicals work as well when you're at home. I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like actually being in the theater and seeing that, it's almost like seeing an actual stage production of it,
Yeah.
It just feels a lot better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I
Yeah.
think pretty much every movie can be elevated by a theater experience to a certain
Yeah.
extent, and some obviously are elevated more because of that. And I think some things like big blockbusters is definitely the crowd mentality. I think one of the things I really enjoyed about Avengers Endgame maybe was overall maybe the movie's quality, but definitely was the theater experience of everyone being really excited, the big moments that the Russo brothers were able to
Oh my
create.
God, yeah.
It was, I like you can't
That
deny
was
that it
yeah.
was a great theater experience for everyone. It was really one
Yeah.
movie where like everyone was very excited about the big moments, and you got to
Yeah,
give the
like when
movie
Captain
props for
America
being able to
picked up
create that.
Mjolnir, everyone just lost their minds when I
Yeah,
was in the
everyone
theater.
lost their
That
minds.
was incredible. Like
Hmm.
I will never forget that. It was one of the craziest theater experiences ever. The only match probably like seeing Star Wars: The Force Awakens on opening weekend. That was
That was
also pretty
also very
crazy.
cool. Yeah, I saw that
Yeah.
for my it was I saw it on Christmas for my birthday cuz that's when it released as well. So yeah, it was releasing
Yeah.
on my birthday, so it was a great time. I got to see it in IMAX. It was very epic. It was very very awesome to see.
Yeah.
One that is
Amazing.
also one of my best theater experiences. Um,
Yeah.
Borat subsequent movie film delivery of prodigious bride to America regime for make benefit once glorious nation of Kazakhstan now holds the record for the longest title of a film nominated for an Oscar, and it'd be very funny if it won anything because I guess they're not doing the short form. Most people would just say Borat subsequent movie film. People would even just say Borat 2. But if like someone like Maria Bakalova could win for supporting actress, they would have to say Maria Bakalova for the whole, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna have to say the whole title of the movie, which would be pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I think it would make it the probably the longest title movie that would win an Oscar. So who knows?
Yeah,
That's
if
one of the
they'd be
reasons.
finished the title and then the fucking then she would be played off before she even gets to speak.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I mean,
yeah.
there's obviously like the 20. Oh yeah. That leads me to my other thing is that the Oscar ceremony has banned any Zoom acceptances and requires in-person attendance. Um, yeah, it doesn't seem like a great idea overall because like obviously they're getting out the vaccine better, and maybe some of these like older celebrities who are maybe more worried about their health are, and I'm pretty sure they have a plan for this, but my biggest concern is for like they're basically saying a fuck you to foreign filmmakers, to
Yeah.
especially all the people who were nominated for the foreign films, including the movie we're going to talk about today, all the documentaries that are somewhat foreign, or anyone who lives in a different country is going to be automatically like they're going to be automatically screwed. They're not going to be able to go to Los Angeles, which is really
Yeah.
disappointing that they're doing that. And I don't know, it seemed like I and they're also they're doing the people have dubbed it the Jason Sudeikis rule. They've banned any casual wear. They want formal wear for this
Oh.
event.
I love Jason Sudeikis' display
Yeah.
sweater. It was amazing. I wish I had
I wish I
it.
had that hoodie. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do also wish I had that hoodie. And just I don't know. It could be fine, but I really don't like that they're saying basically no to a lot of foreign filmmakers and basically trying to say to older actors like we mentioned Anthony Hopkins is the oldest actor nominated for an Oscar ever, and obviously him being an older man makes him more susceptible to COVID-19 overall. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if he's gonna. He didn't even attend last year without COVID. I don't know if he's gonna attend this year, especially since even though he had a better chance than he does last year, but like at the same time, they're still
Yeah.
gonna go to Chadwick Boseman. So I don't know if he'll show up. I wouldn't if I was him
Yeah.
personally. If I had to think
No,
about
I
it.
mean like I think that's probably the only category where I can say it's pretty much a lock, to be completely
Yeah.
honest with you, man. Like, it's just the amount of emotional weight behind that nomination. I mean, like, if he doesn't get the award, I'm upset. So it makes sense
Mm-hmm.
that he'll win it.
Yeah. Blockbuster has returned to Detroit as a free rental box. So they're doing a little thing about that. I don't
Oh,
know who initiated that, but that's a cool thing. It
whoever
was
the
really
hell did
funny. I
that,
saw a
you are
lot
an
of
amazing
memes
person.
about the Blockbuster documentary that Netflix did about how basically they're making it's like if you killed someone and they made
Yeah,
a documentary about them.
yeah,
Of course, in the corporate sense of the word. Obviously, we're not talking about actual human lives here, thank God. But
yeah, of course.
yeah, that's just kind of funny that Blockbuster and like that's a cool little initiative thing. That's cool. I enjoy that idea.
Yeah.
Um, I
No, I
was
think it's
in
really cool. I mean, like,
yeah
it's the Blockbuster box. That's a bit like one of those red box thingies, right? Almost.
yeah no I think it's supposed to be kind of like I don't know if you've ever heard of these library boxes. I've made them. You basically like it's like you make a box out of some wood and then you put books and it's like
Oh yeah, no, no, I know
take
what you
one
mean.
leave
Like,
one kind of thing.
there's
I
one of
think
those
that's the
around
kind
my
of thing
neighborhood.
that's the
Yeah.
kind of thing they're trying to do with Blockbuster here. And I was actually down in Detroit for like a mission trip of sorts and I actually made some boxes for some book boxes down there. So it's cool to see they're doing the same thing with movies and Blockbuster's brand has been slapped onto it. Kind of fun.
I think it's kind of fitting though that Blockbuster is coming out of a city that has itself pretty much died and now it's on the rise again. I think it's interesting how that works.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
Yeah,
we could see a
Detroit's
return to
definitely been
Blockbuster in that form.
reinvigorated by things like obviously new businesses. The most notable I can think of is StockX, a pretty big business that
And well,
has
thank God for
been
that, man.
yeah.
I've not. I think it's just incredible what's happened to that place, but I'm glad it's on the rise again. Yeah.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
The Mrs. Doubtfire director reveals that there is a R-rated cut of Mrs. Doubtfire. This is, it sounds like the next Snyder cut kind of thing that people are demanding. It was very popular this past week, and only the last 24 hours it got, at least on Reddit, it got very popular under r/movies, and I'm pretty sure there's gonna be news stories about it in other places, but yeah,
What the fuck? An
that could
R-rated
be,
Mrs. Doubtfire. I have to see that. Actually, that
yeah, I
sounds really
think.
funny.
This is going to be the next Snyder cut. This is the next thing that the people are going to demand comes out, and I'll definitely watch it. I'll check it out. I don't know
Yeah, for
who
sure.
owns
I'd
Mrs.
do that too.
Doubtfire. Is that a Fox thing? Because then that would be Disney. Imagine releasing the R-rated version of Mrs.
Well, you could probably do
Doubtfire
it
on
through
Disney
Star,
Plus.
right? I
Yeah,
mean,
they
like
can do
you've
it through
got
Star,
Kingsman
and
and
probably
whatnot
I'm
through
guessing
there.
they'd probably have to do it through Hulu in the United States, because
Yeah.
that's basically the equivalent at this point. And I think they should do that. Why not?
Yeah.
It'd be
Could be
interesting.
fun.
It probably, honestly, if I think about it, it's probably just going to include a couple swear words that Robin Williams said while on set. If
Yeah,
I'm
because
being
he does like
honest,
to riff a lot, so it makes
yeah.
sense. But I mean, it would be
But
nice to,
it'd still be interesting to
revisit.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a good amount of news. We had a couple of discussions about some of the news there. Aiden
Yep.
very much disagrees with my views on Get Out, but anyways, let's get into the movie this week. We're going to be talking about Collective, a 2019 film that debuted at Venice Film Festival, also showed up at TIFF, that is nominated this year in 2021 for Best International Feature and Best Documentary. It's not expected to win either, if I'm
Yeah.
talking as an Oscar predictor. But I think it definitely, if I had to pick one of the two, it definitely has a better chance probably to win documentary. I think it could
Oh,
have a
I would
chance. It
agree.
could
Yeah, for
totally
sure.
happen, and I think everything that I've seen so far in the documentary category has been very good, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind if any of them watch it. I also watched Crib Camp, something that got nominated for documentary, and it was very good. Like American Factory, which won last year, it's executive produced by the Obamas. But I don't know. I think it could win as well. I don't know. I would be fine with any of them winning. Anyways,
Yeah.
But we're not talking about Crib Camp. We're talking about we're gonna talk about Collective. Um, Aiden, what did you think of this film? I know this is my pick. It was a little more of a niche pick. I'll be honest. It's my favorite of the three I've seen.
Yeah. I mean,
What do you
I
think?
gotta say, there's just so many things I could say about this documentary. It's probably, I think it's up there for me in terms of favorite documentary films, along with 13th. To be honest, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a raw, unfiltered look at malpractice in medicine, especially after a tragedy. I mean, that whole scene with the maggots in someone's wounds, that
Oh,
was just
it was
disgusting. That is probably
insane.
the worst thing I've ever seen, like in a
Yeah.
documentary film, but it was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
to like really show the true gravity of what this was. I mean, like I like how it's unfiltered. I like how it doesn't hold back. It really is not kind to the Romanian government,
No.
and I'm glad I got to watch it. Honestly, it was crazy to see the level of fucking what's the word? I guess malpractice. I should use that one again. Like
Yeah.
in the fucking in the Romanian medicine sector, I think it's just incredible, man. Like I don't know, like
Yeah.
yeah, that's really all I can say about it, man. It's just it's raw, it's unfiltered, and I think it's exactly how it needs to be put out. Because I think anything less than showing like I think if you didn't show any, like everything, then it just wouldn't have been as effective. You really needed to show
Yeah.
every little terrible thing that came out of that situation, and I think they did a good job with that.
Yeah, for sure. Um,
Yeah,
I guess I have a couple problems with it. It's great. I'll say that first,
yeah,
but it's not perfect. My two problems was when it focuses on the new minister of health they have in the interim. I think it felt very
yeah,
kind of repetitive in some of its ideas. He himself didn't
yeah,
bring a lot of new ideas or rhetoric really. Two, they give away almost everything that the documentary is going to talk about. The beginning explains the whole fire situation, explains what happened with the government,
yeah,
and how pretty much everything you need to know. And I think that if I'm watching this, I want to learn it just through the documentary. I didn't need all the words
yeah.
at the beginning. I think they
No,
could
I
have cut
agree.
that.
I mean, like a summary at the beginning may have been a little. Just, I mean, like it kind of reminds me of like I don't know. It's sort of like how like we have our introductory paragraphs like in our fucking essays that we write at school. It
Yeah,
was a little
but
bit
this is like a
structured like
documentary
that.
where it should be like pretty clear, like throughout the doc, what they're trying to get at.
Yeah,
And I think that's probably because the director was maybe nervous of both like a foreign uh, audiences not understanding it as well, just by watching it and having to watch the subtitles the whole time. So they had them watch all the subtitles that are the most important in the beginning. I really love how it doesn't rely on voiceover, personally,
yeah,
because I think that that's really effective. It shows just how much footage and how much effort and how much the people care, because how much they were able to talk about these issues were insane.
yeah,
It really did feel. It felt like it was like the real life version of movies like Spotlight and The Post and other journalism films, except
yeah,
this stuff was being like filmed as this stuff was happening, which
yeah,
in itself is insane achievement. I also felt it kind of had the ideas of like a Scorsese movie, showing the kind of the corruption and the gangster mafia almost corruption of the Romanian government as a whole, just
yeah,
and the voting and the stealing, the fact that well, I want to talk about some of the details of this documentary because I think it's obviously you guys should check it out for yourself, but I do want to talk about some of the details, specifically the fact that, well, I want to first of all talk about the fact that a sports gazette was the one that broke this story in Romania is crazy.
yeah,
That the the rest of whatever media or and journalism they have is so corrupted or like too loyal to the government that they weren't able to reveal this, and like a kind of a newspaper that should be like reporting local soccer scores and other stuff is reporting on a like and getting a guy to film an entire like government conspiracy.
yeah.
um it's crazy. And
It is really
like
crazy. Yeah,
like the amount of proof and the fact that like they were talking to the government leaders who were pretty much responsible for this right in front of their faces, and the government leaders really couldn't say much because they just allowed it to happen. Obviously, I don't think they were being like, I don't know, aggressive about it. Like they weren't trying to be particular, they weren't trying to screw over the people, they were just allowing it to happen, which obviously by them not being involved, the people were screwed over. And
yeah,
it sucks that a tragedy like that had to happen before they were able to even show this. But then the even like the footage from the fire is obviously very heartbreaking, and the fact that so many people died afterwards just because of this malpractice was crazy. Because the
yeah.
fact they were getting their medical supplies and like sanitation supplies from a place that was diluting them like so much that they almost became probably ineffective,
Yeah, it was like 10 to
just
10% of
so
what they
yeah, just
originally
so a
were.
leader of a
Crazy.
company could beg that money for himself and also use that money for bribes, etc. And
Yeah,
the fact
horrible
that
stuff.
it also takes a look at what journalism can like do to a person, but in this case it was very much deserved. He deserved to be ridiculed very much for what he had done. Obviously it led to a tragic end to his life, but it also focuses on how you can't always blame something like that on, the media. There is some limits to, like, obviously media should have limits, right? Like it kind of explores how, obviously media need to have limits. They shouldn't be invading people's private lives or trying to, ridicule someone so badly that they end up killing themselves. But there is also, they do have a duty and responsibility to show the people what is going on in their own government. In this case, it was very necessary considering what was going on. And the ending of the film is very powerful. The fact that, they elect the same government that allowed all this to happen in the first place by like the biggest win ever, and just showing how the reason why is because there's just so many people, especially younger people, who just aren't voting. And I think that's something that's definitely universal. Like, if you have the right to vote, you need to vote.
Oh yeah.
In whatever country
That
you're
happens
in.
a lot here in Canada. Happens a lot in the United States. I mean, like, until this last election in the United States, like, there's really not that many people voting. Like, I don't understand what's up with that. I mean, like, so many people they die trying to fight for the right to vote, and we have it here. We just don't exercise it enough, and I think that's pretty sad and pathetic, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't get that.
You need to vote, and this film really makes that important. And then the ending also really does a good job at, like, the sudden cut. I think worked very well from the movie because it allows you to, like, doesn't make you expect more. It makes you reflect on what you just saw. And the ending where the father is visiting his son's grave, it just reminds you of how much this is, like, through all the politics and the all this government talk, the story was most importantly about people, and it was about people and how undeserved what happened to them was. And through just reminding you that the father obviously was trying, in the end he was trying to cheer himself up singing to that song, but it's just the weight of what's happened to him, how irresponsible the government is, just how much these actions that don't look like they'll have that much impact on human lives just has. Because, like, obviously when you're doing it, like when you're diverting the money, it's like, I'm just diverting money. Like, obviously he knows it's illegal, but it's like, I'm not hurting anyone, I'm not stabbing anyone right now, but you're basically doing that, right? It shows just how much these crimes that are considered almost, well, petty to a certain point because it's just money, just affect human lives so tragically. And the doc is very well presented and shot. It uses a lot of shots that I don't think most docs would go for, and it's obviously they had got a talented filmmaker to shoot this. And I think it's a really good doc. It needs to be seen.
No, I totally agree. I loved it. I mean, like, I would probably watch it again, actually, even with all the grim stuff. But I mean, I think it's that good. I mean, like, as far as the score, like, unless you have anything to say about it, what would you give it?
I would also like to say I think it has a pretty good comment on doctors, because a lot of the doctors in the documentary are very much were basically allowing their patients to suffer to the point where they were allowing maggots to be created onto their faces, which kind of just exactly. Just
sorry, I that one scene is just. I mentioned it at the beginning, but it's honestly so hard to watch. Like, I can't even imagine having that happen to me. I mean, like, that would be probably the worst thing ever. It's
and I think it kind of exposes a kind of a toxic culture around healthcare that unfortunately a lot of doctors, both, I don't think just in Romania but just across the world, are really more focused on the money that comes with being a doctor rather than the ability to actually help patients and save lives, kind of thing, right? And obviously, we have all these shows like Grey's Anatomy and all this stuff about, saving people.
Noble doctors.
But when it really comes down to it, unfortunately, I think too many doctors are really just focused on the financials of it. When teenagers, like even people our age, are like, oh, I want to become a doctor when I'm older. I'm like, I'm always wondering, like, there's obviously a standard for a lot of cultures to have, like, a kind of, like, a higher job, right? And, like, there's a standard, a lot of Chinese and other Asian homes to become a doctor or something of that caliber, right? And a lot of the times I'm thinking, well, obviously being a doctor is great, but then are you doing it to actually help people, or are you doing it just for the status and the money, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's become too much of a priority. Obviously, clearly in Romania it has, but I think also across the world, and I think that's something that this doc kind of talks about a little bit, but that's something that definitely needs to be talked about, how as an education system, just as a whole of a country, you need your doctors to be able to focus primarily on healthcare, and you got to remove the elements of status and money that would just distract them from being able to do their jobs properly and allow them to focus on that, right? Or else things like this can happen.
Yeah. No, exactly. I totally agree with that, man. I mean,
But
yeah,
you know,
it is the sad truth of the medicine world, but
and I think
it
obviously it's
is.
not as bad as it was in Romania. And my
Yeah.
mom talked about how this is obviously connected somewhat to the government had a lot of had to be reconstructed basically after because obviously Romania was one of the countries that was under Soviet control, was kind of being
Yeah.
supervised by them, and had a lot of rigged elections essentially, and how they basically had to create their democracy from the ground up. And but over it showed like the father of the healthcare minister, who the interim one, talks about how they probably won't be able to recover and create a good system after 30 years. And I think he's right, because it was around 30 years, because the delusion of the kind of the Soviet hold on these countries ended in around the 1990s. So it's been about
Yeah.
30 years since then, and obviously not a ton has changed. So I don't know, it's just kind of heartbreaking to see all of that.
It is, honestly. Very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But as far as the score though, what would you give this, man? For real.
At a score, this is a very good documentary. Obviously, do have a couple
Yeah.
problems with it, but it's very well done, and I think a ton of it doesn't have to maybe do it with the idea of his documentary. It doesn't have too many greater ideas being held because of how journalistic it feels. But the
Yeah.
stuff they were able to capture in this very journalistic documentary is crazy and needed to be seen by the world. And I give it an 8 out of 10. Very good movie, but I couldn't
Yeah.
see myself probably giving it anything higher than this.
No, fair enough. I mean,
Still
I'd
very good.
probably give it an 8.1 out of 10. No, I'm joking. I'd give it an 8.5. I think it's. I mean, like, obviously, I don't think it's perfect either. Like you said, it has a few problems, but I would just give it a little bit higher just because of all the emotional weight that there is that
Mm-hmm.
goes along with the story. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
All right. Well, that has been us talking about Collective.
Yeah.
Make
Before
sure to
we
go
go
check that
though,
out for
you have something
yourself.
cool to
It
talk
is on
about for our
Netflix.
episode.
What's something cool? Oh wait, I do have something cool
Yeah.
to talk about.
Didn't you say that? Yeah, your brother. Let's go,
Yeah.
man.
Um, we could actually quickly. Actually, I wanted to first. We do have something special to announce, but I wanted to first talk about a couple movies we've
Yeah.
both seen this past week. Aiden, I'm
Oh,
curious.
okay. Yeah,
Well,
sure.
have you checked out anything else cool this week?
Well, besides this one, Godzilla King of the Monsters, I have not really watched a lot to be honest. I've been watching shows. I watched Scrubs for the first time. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but
No.
pretty solid. Like it's a really good comedy, and it
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of good dramatic elements. It's basically like on the subject of medicine. It's about the young doctors at a hospital, and it's just basically talks about their lives. And then there's this one character like you said, is really just in it for the money and not really
Yeah.
in it for like helping people, right? And I think that was kind of an interesting portrayal in that show. I've
Mm-hmm.
also been watching a lot of Family Guy. I don't know why. And that's really honestly been it, man. Like fucking hell, school's been like killing me lately. I really have not had a lot of time. Like I was barely able to watch the movies this week as it
Yeah.
is. So
Tough.
yeah.
You forgot about Fracture.
Oh yeah, Fracture.
You
Oh
watched?
my god.
You
Yeah. See, I forgot about it because it's so
Yeah, it was
boring,
very
man.
forgettable. I
Ah.
only know it because I have it on my like list of things I watched this week because I write everything that I watched down. I'll mention the coolest thing I saw was The Girl with the
Yeah.
Dragon Tattoo, by
Oh, the
David
David Fincher
Fincher,
one.
2011 film. Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
I don't know. People say it's the most disturbing one. I think it. Yeah, I don't know. I think Seven might be more disturbing, to be honest. Obviously,
Yeah.
a lot of it is more personal violence. There's not as much general violence because the
I
violence we
mean,
see in Seven
it's
isn't for like characters we know. A lot of it is for characters we don't know.
also a
But
lot of
while Dragon
rape.
Tattoos, there's
A lot of rape
there is
in the Girl with
there's
the
a
Dragon
rape
Tattoo.
and there is a lot of violence for characters we know in Dragon
Yeah.
Tattoo. But it's a very well done film. If it wasn't done
Yeah.
by someone like Fincher, I could easily see this be like a 6 or 7 out of 10. But the fact that Fincher does it and the filmmaking is extremely good, And also the cast, Rooney Mara is incredible. Even though I think her accent breaks a little bit, and I could definitely recognize it was Rooney Mara through all the accents and the costume. And Daniel Craig's very good in it, but obviously I could still identify as Daniel Craig, so it's not anything insane. And the characters aren't too memorable. I don't know. It may be just because I can't remember their names exactly because their names are like Swedish and German names.
Well, I know the main guy,
Mikhail
Blomkvist or whatever. I don't know if I said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lisbeth Salander. Those are the main ones, I guess. But
yeah. I also rewatched Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse. Amazing movie. It's great. I realize, there's some critiques to be made about how it does. Like, there's a little bit of superhero cheese both in the story and the soundtrack. But, what makes this film like a 5-star movie for me is just the amount of creativity and heart and art that was brought to this movie that just overwhelms anything that you could critique it for not having any greater themes other than the message they're directly giving to you, that like anyone could wear the mask kind of thing. And that's what makes a great movie. I want to talk about a bad movie quickly.
All right, we'll go ahead.
500 Days of Summer. Have you watched it?
No, I haven't. I've heard of it though. It was Mark Webb's directorial debut, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. A lot of people seem to like it. You didn't like it very much?
I did not like it. It's really bad. First of all, Mark Webb is not a good director. I think that most people identified that from the Amazing Spider-Man movies. And you're like, okay, he's not a great director, right? So maybe the script's good, and that's why people like it. The script's not good. It's very obvious what the message they're trying to go through is that just because you love someone doesn't mean that you have to love you back, and kind of like, just because you were with someone and they broke up with you doesn't mean that like they owe you anything, kind of thing. Yeah. And I'm like, I feel like this is a message that most mature people should be able to understand. Right, just off the get-go, but the whole movie is about that, and there's really nothing else that makes this movie better. The performances, I don't find Zooey Deschanel a very charming actor. I couldn't get into New Girl, her show, very much. Joseph Gordon-Levitt doesn't work well in this role as a leading actor man who we're supposed to feel bad for, and it also has the funny friends thing where he works as a greeting card writer, but then he has like a massive studio apartment, which I'm pretty sure is supposed to be set in New York. So it's also set during 2008, which should be during the financial downturn. So I'm pretty sure this stuff is very not realistic in a lot of other ways. The music sucks. The editing is cheesy. Like, many of the scenes just end out of nowhere. It feels like there wasn't a strong conclusion in the script. Yeah. There's no charm to the production design. The production design is bland as hell. Like, there's no fun colors. It's all grays and beiges and so much boringness. Yeah. And I didn't understand the point of that. There didn't feel like I can understand that for a movie that has a point to it. This one did not. It did not have a point. I gave it a 4 out of 10. I would not recommend it. But
I would definitely agree with you. I don't think Mark is the best director. I thought the first Amazing Spider-Man actually wasn't that bad. I wouldn't give it an amazing score. I'd probably give it like a 5.5 or 6 out of 10. I did like the chemistry between Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield, but I guess that's probably because they were dating in real life. But I think the second one was probably where I realized, he's really not that great of a director. I think he's much better at music videos. That's where he started off, and that's where he's kind of
that's
gone
where
back
he should
to.
Stay, because clearly he didn't do too great with superhero movies. And personally, in my opinion, he didn't do too great with this rom-com. I understand. It's toxic. Just like, like, obviously the characters are supposed to be toxic, and like, oh, that's supposed to be the lesson. But like, to me, this film just felt like it's teaching a lesson that should be obvious to people, and that this movie is only really for toxic people. And, it assumes you're a toxic person, basically, by showing this message. Like, you need to know this message that, exes don't owe you anything, blah, blah, blah. If someone doesn't love you back, move on healthily, kind of thing. It's like, most people should be that, right? Obviously, we do get caught up in our feelings, and there's also, you can get all sorts of delusions when you're in your feelings. But, like, when you're not in your feelings, this movie's very easy to reflect on and say, yeah, that's kind of stupid. I understand. Nothing about this movie makes it important, And that's why I don't think it might connect to you personally, and that's why I think some people like it. But overall, I found this movie just not that good.
Yeah. All right, well, that's fair. Understandable.
Right. Anyways, we should get to our special announcement.
Yes.
We're gonna have our first ever guest, and being as we are a very large podcast here at Dead Film Critics Society, we're gonna have one of the most esteemed people I could find, and that is my brother, Jordan. He's right over there. Actually, he doesn't want to come on screen right now, probably, but
nice.
And I think it's proper that, as the guest, he should pick the film that we watch. It is a film he has already watched. I don't know if you've I definitely haven't watched it. I will find out if you've watched it right now, Aiden. The film is Princess Mononoke, I believe around the 1990 Hayao Miyazaki film from Studio Ghibli.
Miyazaki.
Yeah. One of his better films.
Well, that makes me feel good about it. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
Have you seen any Studio Ghibli films, Aiden?
I've seen only one I've seen Spirited Away and Ponyo. That's pretty much it.
Ponyo is apparently one of his weakest. Spirited Away obviously is considered pretty much a masterpiece. And I'm almost there. I'm like, I don't know. It's one movie that I don't think I like as much as other people. I think I'd say the same for Get Out, as you clearly have expressed to me.
Yep.
Well, maybe we'll talk about that later. But yeah, we're gonna watch Princess Mononoke. I'm very excited to watch it. I've watched My Neighbor Totoro is currently my favorite over Spirited Away. That might be kind of controversial, and maybe I'm stupid. I need to rewatch both of those, obviously. But I'm very excited to watch another, Hayao Miyazaki film. He's a very good filmmaker. Should be a really good movie, and I'm looking forward to talking about it with you and my brother. So we'll do that next week. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to go check out Aiden at GB Reviews. Make sure to subscribe to my channel at Reviewing on YouTube, and we'll see you guys in the next podcast or next video. We'll see.
Episode.
All right, see you guys.